¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. And hopefully our stream does okay today. Welcome, everybody. Echo Rasta Dragon, Michael Hassler. Welcome, Mayhem Hippie. How's it going? Before we get started, a quick thank you to TYT for giving a massive shout out. We have Mind Grifter, Dank Ferric Mom, Derry Bennett, Dutch Antifa Dragon, which I presume is another Dragon Squad, Laura Namek. Thank you for the offline follows. I appreciate that. Thank you. Whew. All right. So I guess we should start with just kind of a quick recap. If you guys have been keeping up with what's been going on, apparently a 6th officer in the first the footage of the murder of Tyre Nichols was released Friday evening, I believe. It was hard to watch. It was hard to watch, and I think if you haven't, I think that it's if you do decide to watch it, it's a rough one. Hey, Cosmic Seeking, how's it going? Yes, it's the white cop that apparently was involved in the first interaction, but apparently, according to what we know, he wasn't in the second interaction. I'm not quite sure. I mean, in my eyes, all of them are pretty much guilty. They did say more investigations are still underway. But in my eyes, they are all guilty. All of them. If you see a coworker, well, in this case, a police officer, doing the things that these officers were doing, regardless, it doesn't matter. You should have a duty to intervene. In fact, it's in their conduct, or what, their policy, department policy. So there may be more investigations to the officers who obviously were there, were present, and didn't do shit. In my eyes, they all basically are guilty. It's just that simple. I'm bracing for it. I haven't seen it all yet. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. There were protests around. There were protests around the country. Save for like a few instances. I mean, the protests themselves were peaceful. I know that hours before the footage was released, Tyre Nichols' mom and lawyers and stepfather, I think, also made a press conference, and she specifically said that, you know, there shouldn't be violent protests. It's just a horrible story, and I think a testament to the realities of police brutality. I'm bracing for it. I haven't seen it. Yeah, it's rough. It's a bad one. It's bad. There are a number of levels of charges available. Some will be more guilty of the actual murder. I mean, like, in my eyes, they are all guilty. They're all guilty. If you saw that going on and you did nothing to stop it, then you are guilty. You are just as guilty. In my eyes. Okay? If you saw what happened in that video, and your response was to not intervene, as far as those officers go, they might as well have been doing it themselves. I don't care what the person did or didn't do. I don't care what the alleged suspect did or didn't do. What they did was horrifying, abhorrent, and murder. There's no other way of describing it. Do we know if any of them spoke out against the beating? I mean, we saw the video. There was almost a dozen cops there, and none of them intervened. And none of the officers involved intervened either. In terms of, like, the initial people who had the initial contact, none of them stopped the other, whoever. I can't really say, like, who who started, like, the essentially murder, but none of them stopped it. If 5 of them actively participated. The rest of them passively let it happen. So, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, all of those officers are guilty. None of them did anything about it. And the fact that they're being charged with like failure to render aid, the fact that they're being charged with false kidnapping because it turned out that the reason why he was stopped was bullshit to begin with, as nowhere, as far as we know, there's no evidence to suggest or to there's no evidence to claim there's no evidence to the claim that he was driving recklessly to begin with. The part when he cried out for his mom broke me. Yeah, it's very hard to watch. It's very hard to watch. Like, I made a post on Twitter saying that like you should just to understand the severity of the problem here. But somebody also pointed out that like, yeah, I've seen it firsthand, kind of deal is what they pointed out. So, fair point. It's really bad. Yeah, I think their response to my tweet was, it was Globus, the elder. I disagree. It's enough to know that once again the state executed somebody in the street. I've seen way too many people executed by the state already. Yeah, fair point. And the fact, like, the reason, in case, like, more context is needed if you haven't seen it, the reason why he ran was because he was scared that they were going to kill him. He was running home. He was about 3 blocks away. He was running home. Because that's what, the adrenaline, like, filled response told him to do, to run home. It must be like the worst movie, but in real life, yeah, it's not a movie. If you watch it, it was, yeah. He wasn't even that far. I heard it was only down. Yeah, he was very close. He was, about 3 blocks, maybe less. But we'll say, like, from what I understand, 3 blocks away. So yeah, he was trying to run home. That's what he was doing. So the update on that case is that, yeah, they released the clips. I think it was 4 clips, and 5 officers have been charged with second-degree murder. A sixth officer today has been relieved from duty. So there's definitely more investigations, more things coming. Oh shoot, hold on. Let's see if we can. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, he was running home. Yep, that's exactly correct. He was running home. Um I mean the rest we kind of know. Once again, I don't care what this person was or wasn't doing. It doesn't matter. Will you be voting for president in 2024? Well, who's going to be running? Most likely not Trump. I know a streamer that got banned for 2 weeks for broadcasting it on the stream. Yeah, you can. That was not something you could broadcast. Not without heavy editing. That was something that you could not broadcast. That's how bad it was. It's so bad that I would definitely. I could definitely see somebody getting banned for broadcasting that. Yeah, I could see that. Hey, Dacapolion, how's it going? Alia with the 10 biddies, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, where these officers murdered this person, was 60 yards away from his mom's house. 60 yards. For context. "60 yards is about 180 feet, folks. That's right, you can't stream blood and gore. Yeah. Right here. Just literally right there. You could see it in the map. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not even showing anything. Hold on, folks. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, he was literally right there. See that dot? The top dot was where the second confrontation happened, and that literally right there was his mom's house. They're starting to turn on their own. Did you see the female cop that got attacked by another officer? What? Video shows Florida police sergeant grabbing fellow officer by her throat. Holy yikes. Police officers were arresting a verbally and physically resistive suspect. Like, honestly, it's really hard to like believe anything that the cops say. Given that like a lot of given like that a lot of the times they fucking lie. But yeah, verbally and physically resistive suspect accused of a violent felony when the unidentified sergeant arrived and became aggressive with him. The sergeant engaged in a verbal altercation with the suspect sitting inside a patrol vehicle and escalated the encounter. A body camera footage showed the sergeant ducking his head inside the patrol vehicle to talk to the suspect and holding a can of pepper spray, though he did not deploy it. Rosa called the sergeant behaviors inappropriate and unprofessional and unnecessarily elevated the demeanor of the suspect. And then, of course, when she actually attempted to do the right thing, he assaulted her, essentially. He assaulted her for doing the right thing. Holy shit. Yeah, the white cop who tased him first was just suspended. Okay, so wait, it wasn't just that okay, so now that changes things. It wasn't just that the white cop was just involved in the situation. He was the one that deployed the taser first? Huh. Yeah, he should probably fall under the murder charges too. The 5 officers, also black, that were fired, still corrupt though. Yeah, no, it's not just corrupt. They're murderers. Police, it doesn't really matter. The cops are the cops. So it doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, so this lady cop attempted to do the right thing by obviously saying, chill. You are escalating the situation. And then she gets assaulted. Rosa said the officer who pulled the sergeant was following department policy and procedure that call for the intervention when there's imminent fear of engagements of escalating unnecessarily. Honestly, the fact that this is on video and this guy didn't get immediately fired, yeah, immediately. Someone who reacts to that in that way should not be a cop. They should be immediately removed. Fired and unable to be a police officer anywhere else. It is murder, but why did not anyone see the bad behavior and suspend the 5 officers? Well, they did have at least one of them had a history. Like, that's the thing. Quite frankly, until officers get seriously charged, until officers receive serious punishment, until this happens consistently, they're not going to learn. They're not going to learn. And the fact that, there have been numerous red flags, and a lot of times, we find out that some of these officers had complaints before. I mean, look at the, just like a quick recap. Look at the George Floyd case. The guy, Derek Chauvin, had a rap sheet of brutality. So just a viewpoint, I bet the female cop was not going to press charges, but the body camera footage was leaked, so they had to do something. She's probably going to get shunned for it. I mean, it's possible. What does that mean, Derry Bennett? What? I'm going to assume that you mean that Black History Month is in 2 days. So keep... okay. Yeah, sure. Sure, vote Republicans out. Yes, that's a good... Yes. Yes, Republicans have no business being anywhere near power. Yes, that's true. But anyways, the point being is even when a cop attempted to do the right thing, she was assaulted for it. The video footage shows the sergeant turn around while backpedaling as he was pulled by the officer. Then he momentarily places her hand at the throat of the officer and pushes her back. Like this is like some wild like roid rage problem. What the heck is wrong with this guy? So many cops and priests now seem to be evil under the uniform. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, don't kill people. And of course, priests are like, yeah, fuck them. Priests, well, maybe, you know, don't like sexually assault kids. I mean, it's like a thing with like Catholicism. So if you don't, you know, like if you don't want people to look at you a certain way, like especially with like cops and whatnot, then stop killing people. I mean, you know, as far as the clergy goes, stop raping people. Exactly. Just roll out the oversized bagel slicer and solve the problem. Jesus. Nonetheless, as far as I'm concerned, like behavior like this, the moment this came out, this guy should have been fired immediately and prevented from being a police officer ever again. I mean, like it should be that quick. It should be that quick and that serious. Oh, there's a video of you behaving this way? Nope, you're gone. And you can never be a police officer anywhere else. That should be like the standard, like immediate reaction. Like, oh, there's video camera of you like assaulting your own fucking officer because you were escalating a situation which could have led to, you know, another fucking murder. Yeah, no, you're gone. You're gone. As far as I'm concerned, you're gone. Or that's how the department policies should be. From now on, if like anything like this it happens, there's not a question to be had. You're gone. You're gone. And completely excluded from ever becoming a police officer anywhere else. None of this, oh, I get to shift around to a department from another county or another state. Nah, you'll never be able to become a police officer at all. If a video of like this comes out, if there's a case like this that comes out, you're just done. There's nothing else to it. You're just done. It should be that simple. It literally should be that quick. Oh, you're fucking assaulting your fellow officers? Nope, you're gone. And all of those motherfuckers that were just standing around, the almost dozen cops that responded to the Tyre Nichols situation, all of them accessory to murder, as far as I know. As far as I'm concerned, all of them accessory to murder. It would be that harsh for me, because like at this point, like how many times how many stories are we gonna have to go over like this? Good cops tolerate bad cops. Yeah, I mean, if good cops are allowing any of this kind of behavior to happen, then they are the problem too. It's that simple. It's that simple. If a good cop, and I use that loosely, if a good cop is watching somebody beat somebody to death, then they are just as culpable. So to shorthand the logic, well, If cops, regardless, are allowing this to happen, then there are no good cops. And we can see, as we just read, what happens when, like, the one instant a cop tries to do the right thing. What happens? They get assaulted by their own sergeant. Anywho. Yeah, so that's basically where we're at. If you ask me, all of the cops that just watched this happen or participated are essentially accessory to murder, if not to be charged outright. At this point, I think like the argument also to eliminate any type of immunity, any type of qualified immunity, any type of qualified immunity for the police should basically be stripped away. And from now on, if police have to deal with civil lawsuits, it comes out of their pension, their personal pension. So, you know, maybe stop killing people. You'll be alright. So just to be clear, not preferring Biden does not make you automatically a Republican. That's fallacious thinking. I'm beginning to think you're a troll. Or just not very serious. But anyways, let's talk about this.
So we got an enormous amount of work to be done. I look forward to work with you, with the American people, and standing up.
Independent Senator Bernie Sanders is preparing for a new fight within his new role as the chairman of the Senate Health Committee. So in this video, I will show you a recent video he put out discussing this. I will also get to a lot of the greed around the pharmaceutical industry. I'll get to public polling on how...
Yeah, I think a lot of us feel the same way. A lot of us basically wanted to eliminate Trump, essentially. That was it.
Surprisingly, people feel about this issue across the aisle, and I'm also going to highlight here in a second a piece that Bernie put out in Fox News. So, first here, so this is his new fight. You see here, Axios, drug companies brace for Chairman Bernie. So I'm going to get to a quote in a minute here from an insider in the pharmaceutical industry and how they're feeling about this. But first, let's highlight this Fox.
I support the Democrats always because Republicans hate our rights. Well, Republicans hate, like, democracy. Republicans are incompatible with democracy. Like, fundamentally.
Fox News piece, because this is something that I think Bernie Sanders does better than any other politician in terms of someone who's actually on the left, is their attempt to try and reach out to a larger audience and really bring people in, educate them, ensure that, you know, we're all on the same page in terms of corporate greed. So this is a great example of that. Greedy pharma firms rip off Americans while Pfizer, Moderna swim in profits. 5 of the largest U.S. pharma firms totaled $80 billion in profits, but millions of Americans can't afford medicine. So Bernie has had a number of op-eds in Fox News now. It's, you know, it's hard to qualify, you know, what kind of impact this has, but you have to assume it's touching maybe a different...
Ha! I would have literally voted for Mickey Mouse if I thought he could stop Trump. True.
different audience, at least a little bit, than who Bernie Sanders is normally talking to. But I just want to highlight a few paragraphs from this because he makes, of course, great points. Writing here, there's a lot of discussion about how divided
I would love 5 other political parties to run. Will it happen? No. So until then, the choices are, we play with the hand that we're dealt with. We play with the hand that we're dealt with. Rash Nash on ADT. True. Yes. How's it going, Heat? We've chased Dario away. Yeah.
our nation is, and on many issues that is absolutely true. But on one of the most important matters facing our country, the American people, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Progressives, Conservatives,
Great now. Happy to hear that.
could not be more united, and that is in the need to take on the unprecedented corporate greed of the pharmaceutical industry and to substantially lower the outrageously high price of prescription drugs. How is it that in Canada and other major countries, the same medicines manufactured by the same companies, sold in the same bottles, are available for a fraction of the price that we pay in the US? The answers can be summed up in 3 words: follow the money. He ends on here saying, over the past 25 years, the pharmaceutical industry has spent
It's capitalism.
$8.5 billion on lobbying and over $745 million on campaign contributions to buy politicians. Incredibly, last year, the drug companies hired over 1,700 lobbyists, including the former congressional leaders of both major political parties. Over 3 pharmaceutical industry lobbyists for every member
Jesus
of Congress.
Christ.
Now, before I get to more on this, I just want to address the vaccine skeptic audience for a minute, in case any of you are watching this. Because many of you may see this and think, well, this is the issue. You have all of this money going to these big pharma companies.
Yeah, Bernie published a op-ed in Fox News, and this kind of stuff got published there. So good on him. Good on Bernie.
Companies, that's why they're pushing the vaccine on people to make all this money. The issue isn't the medicine. The issue isn't the vaccines themselves. The issue is who holds the intellectual property, who is making the money. So despite the fact that public money and tax dollars have gone into creating the COVID vaccine, the vast majority of medicines, the actual benefit, the actual profit is going to massive corporations. That is the issue. I'm going to get to more on that later on in this video, but that is the issue with the system here. So if you actually had the public hold on to these patents, to this intellectual property, fund all the research, create these medicines, then you would have much lower cost, in most cases free medicine, because of the public investment into the creation of it. And that is a net benefit for society, for people to be able to have easy access to those medicines, to those vaccines.
True.
So again, the issue is not the actual vaccine itself.
How
or
many
the medicine
medication
itself. It is
scandals have there been? I don't know. That's not really relevant to the point here.
who is benefiting from the process. And right now, massive corporations hold complete control over the process, despite the fact that public research goes into creating these medicines. Now, let's get to Bernie's video.
Wait, what? I was listening to NPR today about a new weight loss drug. It's $1,400 a month. First of all, what the heck? And once you start taking it, you can't stop taking it or you will gain the weight back in full? That seems dystopic. Why? Who would invent something like that? Why would you take that? I mean, from what I understand, it's mostly about what you eat. Not so much how much you eat, but it's really important, like, to take into consideration what you're eating.
Here. So he put this out a few days ago saying, as the new chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, or HELP, I'm going to do everything I can to protect the needs of the struggling working class. So check this out.
As the new chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, I'm going to do everything I can to protect the needs of a struggling working class in this country. And that means we're going to take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry.
Wegovy, but here's what happens if you can't afford to take the drug. It costs about $1,400 a month. That's wild. This shouldn't be a thing. Why would you make this? I listened about a full 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm just kind of like skimming over it. Like, this is evil. Ugh.
Industry, who charges the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs and lower those prices. We're going to expand healthcare in this country. Our eventual goal is healthcare for all through a Medicare for All single-payer program. We're going to deal with the crisis in childcare in this country, outrageous. That working families have to pay $15,000 a year to get their kids into childcare. We're going to deal with the issue of student debt. We'll deal with the fact that so many of our teachers are fleeing the profession at a time when we need the best public school system that we possibly can have. So we got an enormous amount of work to be done. I look forward to work with you, with the American people, and standing up to powerful special interest and start developing policy that works for all, not just the 1%. Thanks.
So before I get to further into how these special interests are gaming the system, here is a reaction from somebody within that industry saying here, I have no doubt there will be tough hearings with people from industry being forced to testify, subpoenaed to testify, etc. A pharmaceutical industry source said, and I think it's going to be a real challenge. So they, of course, do not like when there is a focus on the amount of greed within their industry. It is going to be a challenge for them, but largely just PR-wise. Because of the divided Congress, you're not going to have any actual change passed, at least not within the next 2 years. But Axios writes here the important upside.
Yeah, with the way the Congress is currently set up, it's not like Medicare for All is just going to appear out of nowhere. I think the point is to continue to hammer that, to bring these executives in. Yeah, I think that Bernie should do that regardless.
Industry is that with a divided Congress, Sanders has basically no ability to get his most sweeping ideas signed into law at the moment. What he will have is the use of the bully pulpit and the public relations battle. So we'll get to questioning how effective, or not effective, but how necessary this PR battle is currently. But
attention, all Medicare recipients. This is an announcement
speaking
about
of which, oi.
First here, it's also important to separate, the two parties here. Of course, there is a lot of crossover in terms of just the amount of money poured in from private healthcare into both Democrats and Republicans. But when it comes down to it, it is clear, at least when it comes to the ability to potentially have some progress, where the lines are. So this is from this piece from August, last August. Senate Republicans blocked the $35 cap on out-of-pocket spending on insulin for patients enrolled in private insurance in the reconciliation package. Why it matters: the drug costs 8 times more in the U.S. than 32 other.
Yeah, cool. I support better government-based insurance. However, Medicare only covers 80% of the fees. Yeah, well, it should be kind of like a universal healthcare system where you don't have to worry about that. There's not going to be a change passed because the American people perpetually failed to pick the option that would increase their chances of any change being passed. It's not solely a legislative problem. It's also a problem of Democrats unseriously claiming that medical care is an important issue while they act in the opposite fashion. True.
Other high-income nations, according to a 2020 study commissioned by the Health and Human Services Department. So, Republicans blocked it for private insurance, but it got passed for patients on Medicare. Showing you again the need to move to Medicare for all. Because once the corporate interests are taken out of the equation, there's no reason to deny people the health care that they need.
Right. It's a lot. It's also a lot harder, to fuck with programs. Even though, they can try, and in other countries, they basically have to take, they have to take it apart. Like, it's a political liability once something like a universal healthcare system gets deployed. It's very hard to take that away. To take it further, the Dems have cut funding towards other projects. Look at the NY Stadium, the New York Stadium, and Medicare and Medicaid there. That was a scandal. Yep. Democratic voters all consistently cite healthcare as an important issue, yet twice they had Sanders on a ballot calling for a solution and they rejected it. So what is it? Do they not care? And the actions often speak louder than words. Quite frankly, they probably don't. They probably don't. It's very simple, because if they did, there was a point in time where they did have the ability to do that. They did have the ability, and they folded. We're slowly losing our public health care where I live. Sheesh. Yeah, like I said, it's harder. It's harder to take away like programs like that, but it's possible. Yes. I mean, in England, the Conservatives have been chipping away at the NHS, attempting to strip its efficiency so that they can offer private solutions. Bernie's great and consistent, but can Bernie stay a senator till he's 95? No, the point is that the Democratic Party had a chance in several instances. It's not just Bernie. Welcome, Trevor, by the way. Bernie threatens centrists and older Dems, not due to his healthcare views, but other topics. He's scared of Bernie because he would fuck shit up in a good way. Yeah.
Which is also why it's important to point out, a public option is not good enough. A public option you still keep the private interests within the system. You still keep all the lobbying within that system. You have to completely remove private industry from the healthcare system.
True.
Otherwise, you're going to have this continued encroachment within public health. But in terms of the PR aspect of this, how necessary is that? Because a lot of people already agree.
Yes, when conservatives win, that's what happens, Alio. When conservatives win elections, that's what happens. You get things like the NHS, things like Social Security, any universal programs that would benefit the public. Conservatives immediately attack it. So, yeah. Eric, how's it going? Privatization will always be a threat, correct? I mean, like, basically what this kind of brings me back to the other second thought video. This is where we reach limitations. We reach limitations when it comes to like social democracy and whatnot.
Agree and already experience the greed of big pharma. So this is from the Kaiser Family Foundation, their recent study on this. About 3 in 10 say they haven't taken their medicine as prescribed due to costs. So of course that is an ongoing issue. In the US, an estimated, this is from Gallup, 18 million can't pay for needed drugs. And about 8 in 10 across parties say pharma profits are a major contributing factor to prescription drug costs. So taking a look deeper at this data here, profits made by pharmaceutical companies. So Democrats, 82%, say that is a major factor in contributing to the price of prescription drugs. And 80% of Republicans also agree. So you see almost parity here on the awareness that profits play a major piece in the cost of pharmaceutical.
True. Another issue is when some folks work in healthcare. I think that's still the number, makes it harder to change the system. Why? They would just be working in a public system. Their skills are still needed. There's no difference between somebody who would be a nurse under a private system or a nurse under a public system. We still need the nurse. As an example.
Yet, you saw the result of what gets passed or what doesn't get passed because of Republicans. Now, again, the issue of...
Oh, all the folks that handle the paperwork? Damn. So you're telling me like the privatized system is way inefficient?
Of course, Democrats as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we would have to find like a pathway to, excuse me, a pathway to find, to ease that economic strain while we move. I mean, like Bernie's plan is basically probably the best course of action, which is to slowly within the course of 10 years, 8 years, I think it was, you slowly lower the age of Medicare until everybody gets covered under it, so that there's time to adjust. So that there's time to adjust to a change like that. Insurance companies try not to pay their employees. Many folks to do that. I mean, a bigger part of... Oh, you mean like outsourcing? Then yeah, I mean, those outsourcing companies are usually hiring job companies. I mean, they'll just flip you over to another company. A big part of Trump's initial popularity was that people believed incorrectly that he was going to make healthcare either free or significantly more affordable. Yeah, I don't know where you would get that idea. But yeah, I guess people got the impression it's like the whole faux populism shit to just kind of use that rhetoric. And yeah, it turns out no, he's not a populist. He's a fascistic authoritarian. Yeah. It's clearly an area that Democrats should benefit from, both in voter mobilization and voter disincentivation, but they don't activate it, which is weird. I mean, you could say that's a problem with the Democratic Party's decisions.
They had Congress for, Biden's first 2 years, did not pass Medicare for all, was not an interest of Joe Biden. But even just, bare minimum stuff here, not even bare, I mean, we're talking bottom of the barrel, just basic. How about a cap on insulin? Even that for patients in private insurance does not get passed.
Nope. Hola, loca. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Listen to him speak on healthcare during the 2016 campaign. He was talking about a universal healthcare system. Wait, who? Trump? Holy shit.
Despite the fact that...
Yeah, oh, man. Imagine... a fascistic authoritarian wannabe dictator. Imagine having a complete platform on on a universal healthcare system. Jesus. Yeah, he's said a lot of shit that he did not intend to do. True. True. Trump's entire thing, like Trump's entire existence is like one big con.
Republicans understand that profits play a major piece. So there is practically no connection between policy and public opinion. And that is across the board, not just healthcare. We're talking as long as there is corporate interest involved somehow.
Oh man, along with being pro LGBTQ. Oh man, imagine the juxtaposition between these positions and like 2023. Oh man.
There is no connection.
Yeah,
between
just
public
BS the whole
policy
campaign.
in terms of
Sheesh.
its
That's the danger of like these far right like faux populists, because they're not really populist. They adopt rhetoric that sounds like it could be populist. They adopt rhetoric and even borrow and even borrow the type of language like Medicare for all, things like that. But in reality, no. No, once they're handed the power, the authoritarianism starts to show.
potential to maybe impact profits for massive corporations and the policy that gets passed, because of course massive corporations have a much easier and larger sway or a larger impact on Congress because of the amount of money and lobbies they have, as I showed you earlier with Big Pharma. Now, it's also worth mentioning here, I'm going to get to more on this in a bit, but so people also think the cost of research and development play a major factor in the price of prescription drugs, which actually is not true. So Democrats, 66% think that's a major piece. 72% of Republicans think that's a major piece. It's not. Yes, there is R&D, of course, but a lot of the initial research into a lot of the medicine, and I'm going to get to shortly here just how much research, but a lot of the initial research into these medicines, as I mentioned earlier, is from public, is universities researching into this. They're the ones that start the ball rolling on a lot of these medicines, a lot of these vaccines, and you have Big Pharma sweeping in and getting exclusivity rights for decades to make the profits while people have to pay more money, even though their tax dollars already went into investing into the research for these medicines. So just another
that's
thing
wild.
worth mentioning here from Gallup. Millions in U.S. lost someone who couldn't afford treatment. You likely, if you're an American, maybe know someone that was impacted by this. U.S. tax dollars, here we go. Funded this from the Institute for New Economic Thinking. U.S. tax dollars funded every new pharmaceutical in the last decade.
Jesus.
Every new pharmaceutical was funded by U.S. tax dollars. So we're talking, a lot of the initial research into these pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, so like whenever you hear the talking point like, but what about like the stuff that we need to recoup from R&D? Yeah, bullshit. Bullshit.
They write here, we are concerned about how the financialized biopharmaceutical industry balances creation of shareholder value and the value of and the value resulting from improving health outcomes.
Well, the thing is, if by definition you're a for-profit company, that's going to be your priority, right? Your priority isn't whether or not the medicine works or how much it doesn't really matter at all, actually. What matters is what you present to your shareholders. Is what kind of numbers you're presenting to your shareholders at each quarterly meeting or whatever bullshit.
Studies over the past decades consistently demonstrate that increasing co-payments result in lower utilization of health resources and compromised health outcomes. Thus, corporations that seek to maximize shareholder value by aggressively pricing their products will necessarily reduce the health value resulting from these products. This in turn reduced the health impact of the NIH funding, the public funding that contributed to their discovery and development. So they're basically saying here that because of the for-profit motive within the pharmaceutical industry, that is having a negative impact on the potential positive impact that their medicines may have if people were actually able to afford and use them.
Right, because it's not about whatever positive impact that this has on the people. It's not about healthcare. If you're a for-profit company, the point is to make profit. That's it. That's where it begins and ends.
So again, the for-profit motive should have no place within healthcare. Healthcare is a need. To put a price on that is simply disgusting.
Yeah, and morally bankrupt and inefficient and more expensive.
And how this issue can be discussed in any other way or even debated, to me, is insane. This should not be a debate. This is fact. We can see the for-profit motive has a direct negative impact on people's lives. Yet there is still somehow a debate over how much power private industry should have over healthcare. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So a couple last things here on these points.
I mean, it really shouldn't. Private interests have no business in being in something like healthcare. Full stop.
In terms of big pharma's hold over this stuff, so pharma companies hold patents, licenses guaranteeing their intellectual property rights on new medicines. This means no one else is allowed to produce the drug without their permission for the life of the patent, which is 20 years in most countries. And in many cases, this isn't just a U.S. issue. So you have the TRIPS agreement, which I discussed a lot more when discussing the initial rollout of the vaccines and how Big Pharma wanted complete control over the research and the ability to produce the vaccine. But they're right here, the intellectual property system is enforced by governments worldwide under the TRIPS agreement, which is one of the key documents of the World Trade Organization. Some states are made ardent enforcers than others. The U.S. is particularly well known as a strong defender of companies' intellectual property. The EU is not far behind. Last thing here, an analysis of two big pharma giants shows that Pfizer only developed 10 of 44 best-selling drugs in-house, so 23%, and Johnson & Johnson only developed 2 out of 18, 11%. The innovation, quote-unquote, largely happens in university and government labs or in those smaller research companies. I mean, it's all right here. The amount of money that is put into the research from the public into these vaccines, into these medicines, yet you have these massive companies benefiting. It shows you the inherent rot in the system.
True. All right, let's get through some headlines here. "24 GOP senators warn that they will oppose the debt limit increase without, quote, fiscal reform." Nearly half the Senate Republican conference has signed a letter to President Biden warning that they will not vote for any bill to raise the nation's debt limit unless it's connected to spending cuts to address the nation's $31 trillion debt. Brought to you by the party that is responsible for one of the largest and goodies, freebies to the wealthy, brought to you by the same party who is now all of a sudden pearl clutching. While being completely wasteful in other ways. But the things that they want to cut are, in their ideal scenario, would be public programs like Social Security and Medicare. That's what they really would like to do. They can't really be too outspoken about it, but that's what they would do. Yeah, 2017, Republicans looked at the Bush tax cuts and said, hold my beer. True. The letter, led by conservative Mike Lee, Ted Budd, said it's the policy of the Republican conference that any increase in the debt ceiling must be accompanied by cuts in federal spending or meaningful structural reform in the spending. Right, unless they're the ones in control, in which case they don't really care about that. They'll let that train go off the rails. They were discussing the debt limit thing on the podcast I listened to. One of the contributors was suggesting that the deadlock could last longer than normal because both sides are looking to past instances and justifying their non-negotiable stance. Both think that if they don't blink, the other will, but that basically means that nobody will blink. Yeah, cool. And then just careen us over the cliff. Cool. Nice. We, the undersigned members of the Senate Republican Conference, right to express our outright opposition to a debt ceiling hike without real structural spending reform that reduces the deficit spending and brings fiscal sanity back to Washington. You can't really talk about this, like Irk said. You can't really talk about this when, like, you're the party that has also been responsible for the most irresponsible fiscal behavior. They cited the Prevent Government Shutdowns Act, which would automatically provide continuing appropriations to fund government if Congress fails to pass spending legislation by the end of the year deadline, and the Full Faith and Credit Act, which would prioritize federal payments in case Congress doesn't raise the debt limit as meaningful structural reform. Okay. We do not intend to vote for a debt ceiling increase without the structural reform to address the current and future fiscal realities, actually enforce the budget and spending rules on the books, and manage out of control government policies. What does that even mean? Like the military? Yeah, and like government budgets are not they're not like a budget that you and I do. It's not the same. This letter was not signed, which was not signed by Mitch McConnell, and gives public support to Speaker McCarthy efforts to negotiate fiscal reform with the White House in exchange for raising the debt ceiling. Senate Republican Conference Chairman John Barrasso signed the letter, but Senate Republican Whip John Thune and John Cornyn, two other influential members of McConnell's leadership team, did not. Yeah. We will see if any of this has. We'll see if any of this decides to budge. To be quite frank, and the fact that they're willing to hold this hostage, because they want concessions that we just shouldn't give them, is bullshit. It's also stupid because Republicans are the ones who actually create government deficits, like you say, which actually creates a weird question if you think about MMT and people like Stephanie Kelton Because are we effectively saying that neither party adopts MMT, but both kind of do one half of it? Democrats do public investment and Republicans do the increased government deficit, but neither do both. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe they're just like they just don't. I mean, it's kind of hard to say if they really adopt like the MMT strategy, right? Because they don't really talk like they do, or at least they don't sound like they subscribe to the MMT theory. They want that coal fossil market to keep making the money. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of Republicans and some Dems do. Yes. All right, let's do a little switcheroo here. I guess that's what all the MMT people keep telling us, that it's already that already happened. Is that it already happens, but just nobody acknowledges it. But like meaning like nobody acknowledges it, meaning like the people in Congress, like they don't acknowledge it because they don't understand it, or they're not aware of it, or they are and they just don't talk about it. All right, let's switch gears here. EPA's 100 billion climate aid windfall spurs turmoil, folks. Yes. Congress has given the EPA more than 100 billion to spend on climate-related projects over the next 18 months, but the massive sum is triggering controversies. Yes. Like the controversy that the planet is checks notes still on fucking fire, and no adequate resources are being directed to try to alleviate the situation, and like 100 billion is really not that much in comparison to perpetuate a problem that will continue that will inevitably lead to perpetual losses. I think it's unfathomable for them to comprehend based on how they understand governments and monetary systems to work. It's kind of like how they live glasses. Gotcha. So dollar store level funding is supposed to stop climate change. Right, exactly. Yeah, essentially, dollar store fucking change is supposed to stop climate change. And like the Wall Street Journal is putting out this article as if like $100 billion is like the freaking end all, like the apocalypse of government spending. It's like when Dems were yelling about $1,200 fixing child poverty. No, the $1,200 is not what alleviated some of child poverty. It was the tax. What was it? It was like the tax incentives that assisted with that. Not the garbage stimulus money. That was not. That was not for that. The money which came from the 2021 infrastructure package at last year's Inflation Reduction Act is aimed mainly at setting the U.S. economy on a path to cut planet-warming greenhouse gases by 40% by 2030. It also includes money for what is known as environmental justice, or helping low-income and historically disadvantaged communities recover from the exposure to health risks from industrial activity. While this is good, maybe go after the companies. Community groups that have long demanded funds to right past wrongs say they're struggling to navigate the new rules. They passed all this stuff and they committed funding for all of this, but then they actually didn't write out how it's going to work. Said Devin DeWolf, a community organizer in New Orleans. Everybody's just kind of waiting for that to come out. The environmental justice provisions of the funding have also become targets for Republicans. Anytime Congress channels billions of dollars towards undefined goals, it's going to need a rigorous oversight. Okay, yeah, get fucked. Said Representative Bruce Westerman, chairman of the House Committee on Natural Resource. While Democrats have been quick to talk about environmental justice, they have yet to show definitively where and how IRA money will be used. More broadly, conservatives have questioned whether these expenditures will provide tangible benefits to the poor. If we really wanted to help the poor, we need to have lower electricity prices, lower gasoline. Okay, but the point is to get off of fossil fuels, okay? Not incentivize the use of it more. This doesn't make any sense. This statement is laundering fossil fuel bullshit. No, we do not need to continue to incentivize the use of fossil fuels. We need to assist people in getting off of fossil fuels. That's what the goal should be, really, realistically. And in a serious climate-minded strategy, one of the main key points would be to help people would be to help people get off of fossil fuels. It's not an unreasonable request. Knowing where the money is going is important. Funding solar farms and wind farms and home upgrade grants would be nice. Yes. Some of that is for, I think, like, incentives for switching from, like, switching from gas to electric. So Diana Furch-Gottroth, director of the Center of Energy, Climate, and Environment at the Heritage Foundation. Ha! Heritage Foundation. I'm quite fond of gas stoves. My power goes out and I can still cook. Yeah, I mean, the point being is we should try to incentivize that. We should try to incentivize the electrification as much as humanly possible. Memphis just fired 2 EMTs over the Tyre Nichols situation. Jeez. For failure to render aid, I guess. Low-income Americans cannot afford new electric cars. This is not environmental justice by any means. So, stop giving subsidies to fossil fuels. I mean, the EPA officials say they're working overtime to draft spending guidelines and expect to release them soon, and they'll work to ensure that the money is well spent. Our work is to lay out a competition that gets the highest return on investment for this funding, a significant emission reduction, and gets funding into communities that have major financing gaps, said Zealand Hoover, senior advisor of the EPA Administrator Michael Regan. Under the new previous Democratic-controlled Congress, lawmakers appropriated the EPA $61 billion under the 2021 Infrastructure Law and $41 billion under the Inflation Reduction Act. The combined $102 billion is more than 10 times the agency's 2022 operating budget. The legislation's climate-related projects include $27 billion for the Greenhouse Reduction Fund that will be funneled through states, cities, and nonprofit lending agencies for investment in renewable energy projects. Well, there you go. So they do have an idea of where it's going. Switching to cleaner vehicles and retrofitting apartments and homes to use less energy. Electrification. There's a further $5 billion in grants to states and cities and tribes to develop plans to cut greenhouse gases, as well as an additional $3 billion for a wide variety of climate and environmental justice activities. Okay, that's a bit vague posting. I don't know what that means. There's also $3 billion to reduce air pollution at ports in the U.S., $350 million to establish a low carbon labeling program for construction and transportation materials, $117 million for community groups to monitor industrial facilities, and $5 million for corporate greenhouse gas reporting. Nice. At first glance, it appears as if there's money for everyone who wants to invest in green energy, but outside Washington, some community groups aren't happy with the procedures used to obtain the EPA funds. In New Orleans, Mr. DeWolf chairs a nonprofit organization, Feed the Second Line, and is installing solar panels on New Orleans restaurants to help them stay in business during power outages after hurricanes, while also providing low-income residents a place to stay cool, charge their phone, and get food and water. The organization has installed 3 projects so far, but wants to create a citywide microgrid of 200 solar-powered restaurants at a cost of about $9 million. Mr. DeWolf and colleagues hope to gain the EPA's approval before the hurricane season begins in May. What we keep hearing is like there's a bunch of money and this is a project that's perfect for what they want to do with this money, but to be honest, these things are really convoluted and complicated. In Wisconsin, members of the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians are considering applying for funds to help monitor mining activity on current and former tribal lands. They're especially worried about the proposed Tamarack mine, which is expected to source nickel used in batteries for Tesla electric vehicles, and is located on ceded tribal lands in nearby Minnesota. The proposed mine is a joint venture between Talon Metals and Rio Tinto. Projects like the Tamarack mine would devastate nearby wetlands, the tribe wrote in the January 17 letter to the EPA. Many of our tribal citizens will not be able to afford the green technology promoted as a benefit of these extractions, yet it is our treaty rights and homelands that will be harmed. Talon spokesman Todd Malin said the project would be environmentally responsible and respectful of the tribe's interests, but at the same time producing minerals and metals for electric vehicle batteries needed to address climate change. The thing is, based on the other statement, it doesn't feel like that's being met. It doesn't feel like the company is respecting the tribe's interests. Because if not, then there would have been some type of agreement between them and the tribes. It's their land. It's the indigenous people's lands. So yeah. Excuse me if I don't believe the company. Excuse me if I don't believe the corporation when they say that it would be environmentally responsible. First of all, press X it out. I know that there are ways of making the projects less environmentally impactful. And to add to that, like, I also don't believe that they would they respect the tribe's interests. If not, then I'm pretty sure they would have come to an agreement. We'd welcome the opportunity to meet with the Red Cliff Band to hear their concerns. The tribe is still waiting. They already voiced them. The problem is it's going to damage nearby wetlands. The tribe is waiting to hear how it can apply for money when hire additional staffers to monitor mining permits and industrial activity. In Texas, community groups around the Port of Houston have been working for years to reduce pollution levels from ships and nearby petroleum refineries. The Inflation Reduction Act money includes $3 billion to cut diesel emissions from trucks that line up to unload ships, emissions that affect people living nearby. However, local groups must partner with state and local governments before applying to the EPA for some of the funds. That kind of partnership might be difficult in a state such as Texas that has been reluctant to accept federal dollars in the past, because Texas, according to Adrian Shelley, State Director of Public Citizen and Advocacy Group. Even if local authorities do want the federal money, they might not have the know-how to apply it. Cool. The EPA's Mr. Hoover said the agency has engaged in hundreds of community organizations across the U.S. to public meetings, roundtables, and small group discussions to help them understand the programs that the agency is implementing and what they can expect this coming year. He said the agency expects to release more of this money later this year. Well, we'll see. We'll see. So let's switch gears really quick. Our community is on edge after a man threw a Molotov cocktail at a New Jersey synagogue. Yeah. So this happened. Authorities are searching for a suspect who threw a Molotov cocktail at a New Jersey synagogue over this weekend, an incident that caused no damage but rattled the community nonetheless. The surveillance footage showing a man lighting the wick of a bottle and tossing it at the front door of the temple Ner Tamid after 3:19 on Sunday morning, the Bloomfield Police Department said in a release. He is believed to be white and appears to be wearing a ski mask and a sweatshirt with a skull and bones crossbones design. The glass bottle broke but did not cause any damage to the temple. The suspect then fled down the driveway. Authorities responded to the synagogue's report of property damage later that morning. About 9:30 a.m. on Monday, they released a video of the incident from multiple angles, showing the man lighting and hurling the bottle at the synagogue entrance. It bounced on the ground and shattered before running away. Yeah. Detectives say that a joint investigation with the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, the FBI, and the ATF is ongoing and are asking anyone with knowledge of this incident to call with information or email. The incident, just one of recent anti-Semitic threats, has drawn outrage from state leaders and left the local Jewish community on edge. Elsewhere in the county, Livingston police said on Sunday morning that they had increased patrols of their temple as a result of an attack, while temper near Tamid will have a heightened police presence into the week. The synagogue's rabbi said in a statement, Mark Katz said in a statement reported by CNN that everything works as it should. The shatter-resistant doors held and its cameras captured everything, and the synagogue will continue to do all it can to keep the community safe. But what it cannot do is convince our community not to grow despondent. There is hate everywhere, and hate wins when we let it penetrate. When this weight of this grows too heavy, I remind my congregation that every day, despite what is happening in Jewish communities around the world, babies are named, children are educated, and people are married. No act of hate can stop the power of religious freedom. In Sunday's attack comes as anti-Semitic attacks and harassment continue their steady climb in the U.S. and on the heels of yet another threats to synagogues in the state. In November, the FBI issued a statement warning of a broad threat to New Jersey synagogues and urging them to take heightened precaution. An 18-year-old man was later charged with transmitting a threat in the interstate and foreign commerce. The ADL documented 370 anti-Semitic incidents in New Jersey in 2021, which it had the highest number ever recorded in the state and the second highest number recorded in any state that year. Yeah, cool. Several Jewish groups, including the ADL, American Jewish Committee, and chapters of the Jewish Federation, noted in a joint statement that Sunday's attack also happened days after the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, when we are reminded where such horrific actions can lead. Yikes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that whoever did this, let's just say it wouldn't surprise me that if they catch this person, that they turn out to be a Nazi. Yeah. We urge our leaders and community partners to speak out against this outrageous act and ask all the community to remain vigilant, although we have not been informed of any particular additional threat to the Jewish institutions in New Jersey at this time. Officials are indeed speaking out. Bloomfield Mayor Michael Venecia said in a statement that hate and anti-Semitism have no place in our welcoming community and called on people to work together to eradicate rising anti-Semitism. Our Jewish neighbors and beloved community members, friends, loved ones, and leaders, she wrote, attacks against them are attacks against all, and we have a responsibility to stand up against anti-Semitism wherever it rears its head. True. Authorities are also looking into an unrelated incident at a church some 60 miles away in Asbury Park, New Jersey. The Monmouth County Prosecutor Office said it's working with other agencies to investigate a possible bias-motivated incident that took place at a Trinity Episcopal Church during an anti-racism event on Friday night. Well, sheesh. Yeah, that kind of gives away the motivation there. Asbury Park Police notified the prosecutor's office based upon the nature of the allegations. It said, adding only that there were no known confirmed injuries to any civilians. Yeah. So this is disturbing. it's clear. And to anybody who thinks that this isn't happening, you must be living in a fantasy land if you think that there is no ongoing far right problem. You must be living in La La Land, or willfully ignoring it. All right, I think we've got a meme video, and then we'll finish off. Crawl out from under that rock. True.
He's going to go on Tim Pool and reveal, I don't know what he hasn't revealed yet, but I'm enjoying, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't enjoying this hot, con man on con man activity that we're seeing.
Is it con man on con man violence? True. All right, so for the cute animal video, what I'm going to replace that with is me bringing in the cat. So don't let me forget that.
Mutually assured destruction.
Crowder and Shapiro. I'm starting to think that Steven Crowder is in some trouble here because it appears like the dude did not have a plan. He thought that something was going to happen, and I don't know that there's another conservative media outlet that is going to be able to pay him what he thinks he is. He may end up like being a guy who's just making $6-7 million a year, which is terribly sad.
If I was a producer of his, I would be contemplating some sort of option. Like we need to.
I know. Listen. I think he makes a ton of money.
Zombie Spy, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that.
Benjamin video, and Owen said he's like a little man baby, which tracks, but that he also makes a tremendous amount of money. We really do need to hear from Not Gay Jared, who made it clear that he quit. Owen Benjamin said the same thing, that Not Gay Jared quit because Crowder was so horrible to work for that even as on the verge of him having a baby. Now, I know this is all childish and like, gossipy and stuff like this, but
it's relevant to the wage slave thing that Crowder's so up in arms about with regards to like, oh, these guys are going to build your brand and then own it. Well, that's what Crowder did with a lot of these.
Without a doubt. There's a lot of hypocrisy here. And again, remember, the two most important features of this story are the tremendous amount of money sloshing around in the right-wing media sphere. It is not just a function. I said this last night at the Give Them a Revolution show. Provide us with the financing, and he got some financing from a billionaire. There was a story in Vice about this, but give us $1 million to advertise on Facebook, and I guarantee you our numbers will be much higher. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And there's a tremendous amount of money sloshing around out there. The gun manufacturer apparently pays him millions of dollars a year, too. The Crowder, anyways.
Oh, that's why he's got to wear the holsters for advertising.
Oh, of course. Of course. And
yeah, he's also got a pistol in his set.
And the other important thing is that Crowder, in admitting that a contract can be exploitive. I mean, because he's not saying this is just about his. He rejected that contract. He's talking about other kids, younger people who are trying to, and people at Shapiro's company who've signed these documents, and they're exploitive. He's admitting that there is such a thing as...
Yeah, like, to all the fucking, like, libertarians, who like have this ridiculous like rebuttal, like, well, you have a contract, so a contract can still be exploitative. So yeah,
exploitive contracts, that there are relationships between management and worker that can be exploitive. And once you admit that they can exist, that just because someone has agreed to sign a contract or to get hired from a company, that exploitation can still exist. Once you have admitted that, like Steven Crowder did, the entire conservative philosophy about economic relationships has been laid bare.
A contract can be terminated at any time.
So he
no, no, it cannot. What? No, it cannot. There are stipulations that a contract may have that prevents you from terminating at any point, or if you do, there are severe penalties or consequences that happen for doing so.
The one who wrote, who, and it's important to remember that, because even apparently Jordan Peterson understands this dynamic, which is interesting, because Jordan Peterson works for the Daily Wire, but he saw Steven Crowder's video, and because apparently Jordan Peterson doesn't hang out at the commissary at the Daily Wire, didn't realize that Crowder was talking about a contract offer he got from Shapiro.
Whoops.
And here is Jordan Peterson pushing that video.
And then he had to delete it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't see this, by the way. Most contracts you can't just terminate. That's the whole point of having contracts. In most contracts you can't just terminate instantly unless there's some kind of like stipulation. Especially when it comes to contracts like this. No way. No way. Yeah, in no world where you would have like a media contract and it says, yeah, dude, you can just like walk out at any point with no consequences, or like with no like period where you're like, okay, you're here for a year and that's it. You're here for 2 years and that's it. I mean, it's just not a thing. Yeah.
Steven Crowder on the hypocrisy of the conservative legacy media. Now he thought,
I happen to work for.
Well, he thought that Crowder had gotten an offer from like Fox,
right, or like or Hugh Hewitt,
what an idiot,
or something.
Oh man, that I wish I would have caught that tweet. Oh man.
Like
He
that.
didn't watch the video. He did not watch the video.
Oh man, what a fucking clown.
And then Peterson had to delete his tweet.
Oh
because
no, he had to delete it. What a fucking clown. I didn't see this. Damn. My marriage contract be permanent? True. Oops, he's talking about my boss. How many big streamer Twitch contracts do we know? Who knows? But even those contracts, bet you can't just terminate those. Heck, you have to go through a process to even terminate your affiliate contract.
He found out that, oh wait, he's working for the company that offered him that deal, and
it's more complicated, actually.
I mean, presumably the job.
What is even contract in this context? What is even the meaning of contract in this context?
Doctor,
I gotta step up my Kermit the Frog voice. Okay, I gotta work on that one.
Watch the video, and the doctor must also understand that it is possible in that instance to have an exploitive contract. I mean, so all of them admit that the primary thesis about economics that they push, conservatives push, is a lie.
Yeah, no shit.
is a lie.
Yeah.
Because once you have exploitive contracts,
Yeah, and like you can acknowledge the fact that, you know, I mean, you can acknowledge the fact that, you know, you can always take other contracts, but the problem is like they can be exploitative. That's the whole premise of it. You can have a contract with easy outs, but there has to be done during negotiations before you sign it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, all of these contracts that do have, and like, I don't even know of like these big, you know, multi-million, 10 millions, tens of millions dollars of contracts that have easy outs. I mean, if you're going to spend 10, 50, 100 million on like, I don't know, Steven Crowder, presumably you're not going to just let him walk away. If not, why make exactly, like if not, why make all this effort? Yeah, it's very uncommon for them to they're protecting their investment. Correct. If people read them and if the stipulations are enforced legally, yeah, but inherently it doesn't make them any less exploitative, whether or not it's legally enforceable or not. The point that Sam Cedar is making is that, yes, you have to acknowledge that even in these circumstances, even in these tens of millions of dollar contracts, there is exploitation, because it's inherent to the business, it's inherent to the economics of capitalism. And if you acknowledge this, Sam's point is that, well, then you understand that their whole mantra that they're pushing is bullshit.
once you understand that workers and management do not enter the marketplace without a power disparity, once you understand that, you start to question, like, why is that?
Yeah, exactly. So then again, like, exactly. I just kind of like sped through it. But I sped through like the logic tree that Sam was going down, essentially.
Well, it's that way because of the laws that are set up that create that marketplace. And that's just a choice. It's just a choice. It's been different at different times. Unions have had more, workers have had more ability to unionize. Workers have at different times not had the ability to have a 40-hour work week. But government steps in, creates a 40-hour work week, creates overtime, disempowers unions through Taft-Hartley, disempowers workers by giving tax breaks to management, creates wealth inequality because we're not going to tax wages. We're going to tax wages at a higher rate than we tax having money. I mean,
Government
all
did
of
not
it
do that.
goes in
Yeah,
there.
they did.
But
They
once-
codified it into law. They codified it into law. Right. Yes, the workers were the ones who militant labor essentially was in the front lines. But what Sam is talking about is the government codified it. Like, government made it into law. If that makes sense. It's not that like they did it out of, you can even make the argument that they may have not even done it out of their own volition. But the point being is that government was the one that funded, like, at the end of the day, government is the one that made that legislation codified.
Crowder says a working relationship between management and workers can be exploitive. Ball game over.
Well, I'd be very interested to see if that kind of class consciousness echoes throughout his staff, right? They might be starting to have some questions about their contracts when they see the kind of money that Steven's turning down because he thinks he can make it elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's
He can
just
make
Crowder.
more elsewhere.
Crowder's plan, and they're all in on this plan. It's like we're going to attack.
They did it for the votes. Feels dirty giving that credit. Yeah, I mean, sure. Even if that was the case, it's not that they get the credit or not. It's just how it functions, right? Like, Labor can't make legislation. Militant labor can only fight to pressure government to do the right thing for workers. That's what labor is for.
The Daily Wire to build our brand so that we can get more money independently. Maybe it'll work.
Yeah, but he might have withheld those contract details to his employees, and now they know it was a $50 million deal.
Oh, that's true. They
might be looking at their paychecks and saying, "When am I getting a
What is
piece
this
of
gonna
this
mean for
pie?"
us?
Wait
bro.
a second. If this dude can walk away from $50 million, what's he making now?
I would like a mug club union.
A mug club union, yes. Workers did fight for it. Moneyed interest caved to prevent an October revolution in the U.S. Yeah. Yeah, because it's either that or, you know.
Yep.
That's what
Insert statement in Minecraft here.
I would like to see. And then also leak some of that information to majority reporters at gmail.com.
True. It's a good meme, all right? This is funny. I know, like Sam said, I know it's childish, but it doesn't matter. It's funny. That's what people mean when they say FDR saved capitalism. Yeah. It was either that or, like, you know, stuff happens in Roblox. I mean, yeah. And I think that, like, we're going to reach a crossroads if we haven't already moved the things in motion to bring us to that point. But yeah, we're going to see that point again. And we're going to have to make that decision. Are we going to finally evolve past this garbage system? Or are we going to continue to provide... are we going to continue to provide... to perform essentially necromancy? We'll see. All right, good memes. But we do need to talk about this. Far right project that pushed election lies expands its mission as Trump ramps up for 2024 campaigns. A far right project that helped spread Donald Trump's false claim about voter fraud in 2020 and misinformation about COVID is trying to expand its mission while facing new criticism from scholars and religious leaders about its incendiary political and Christian nationalist message. Reawaken America. Red flag. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Reawaken America. Yikes. That's a giga yikes from me. That perks my my dog whistle detector. But okay. Reawaken America, project of the Oklahoma-based entrepreneur Clay Clark, who has hosted numerous revival-style political events. Revival-style political events across the U.S. after receiving tens of thousands of initial funds in 2021 from millionaire Patrick Byrne, and became a key vehicle for pushing election denialism and falsehoods about COVID vaccines. Reawaken America also boasts close ties to retired General Michael Flynn. Yeah, this is a big red flag. Yikes. Who in December of 2020 met with Trump, Byron, and others at the White House to plot ways to reverse Trump's election loss. The meeting happened shortly after Trump pardoned Flynn, who was convicted to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian ambassadors, with the Russian ambassador before serving briefly as Trump's national security advisor. Yep. Clark's project also has links to Dr. Simon Gold, who served a 60-day jail sentence for illegally entering the Capitol for insurrectionary behavior, and founded America's Frontline Doctors, an anti-vax group that has also touted bogus cures. Yeah. Christian nationalism has deep roots in American history and has gained traction at different points, said Amanda Tyler, the executive director of the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty. The Reawaken America Tour taps into the unholy well of Christian nationalism to sound out about the U.S. election system and the safety of COVID vaccines, while equating allegiance to Trumpism with allegiance to God. Yeah, this is some cult shit. This is very, very dangerous. Very dangerous stuff here, folks. Clay Clark and others who run this tour are using the name of Jesus, Holy Scripture, and worship music to promote a partisan political agenda and personal business interests. Yep. Flynn and Gold made multiple appearances at the Reawaken America event and spoke this January about a two-day gathering hosted at the Tennessee Church of right-wing pastor Greg Locke, and drew other Trump loyalists such as the My Pillow guy, Mind Pillow, Mike Lindell, Eric Trump, Roger Stone. Oh man, it's the greatest hits, all of which appeared at other Reawaken meetings. Trump gained one more civil case to deal with over the last week. Yep, I mean, those are the least of my concerns. I mean, unless there's one that really buries him, I'm not, he's probably got so much shit. He's probably got so much shit that who knows how many more freaking lawsuits this guy's gonna have. But what I am interested in is the criminal investigations into the election stuff. Lindell lost the RNC vote. Yeah. The same clown, Ronna McDaniel won it. Locke attended a few other Reawaken events too, earned notoriety for calling vaccines sugar water, which is not the pandemic fake, and holding book burnings. Normal stuff. Oh, holy shit. In a rabble-rousing attack on medical professionals at the Tennessee meeting, Gold announced that she plans to launch an antidote to the CDC on March 10th and denounced mainstream systems as being totally corrupted. Oh, man. Jesus. Gold was ousted from her post at the Frontline Doctors Group by its board and last fall in a nasty legal dispute that alleged she misappropriated funds for her personal use, including a purchase of a $3.6 million home in Florida and 3 cars, one of which is a Mercedes-Benz. Nice! Cool. Glad the grift paid off. Gold has countered reportedly in emails to 3 board members, charging that murdering the organization that is incompatible with your fiduciary the organization is incompatible with your fiduciary obligation to the organization. Okay. My sugar water is Canada Dry.
Please clap.
Besides hosting Gold at its meetings, Reawaken website serves as a resource for vaccine naysayers. It provides information about jobs where proof of vaccination is not required. Yes. Cool. And how to request a COVID vaccine religious exemption. To expand its events and audience in the coming months, Reawaken America has announced a plan a plan for a gathering in May to be held at a Tony Trump National Doral Golf Club in Miami. Another is stated for Las Vegas in August. The Reawaken event at Trump Club could prove useful to Trump too, as his fledgling campaign has reportedly witnessed a drop-off in support from some evangelical allies who have backed him in the past. The Doral event may give the appearance that Trump is still strong among the evangelical community, quipped veteran GOP consultant Charlie Black, adding that it will be more expensive to do it at the Doral than other venues the tour has used. But for mainstream religious leaders and scholars who have studied the growing influence of Christian nationalism, of the Christian nationalist right, the evangelical trappings and talks at the Reawaken events, coupled with conspiratorial claims about Trump's losses and vaccine misinformation, are worrisome and have prompted a backlash. TLDR, I don't think it really matters. Our goal is to help. Tyler's group has worked with a religious coalition called Faithful America to mobilize mainstream leaders and to take public stands against Reawaken events, and has helped organize rallies to counter them in Tennessee and other states last year. Our goal is to help Christians provide alternative witness to the public square. Tyler stressed, adding that these efforts began a few years ago as a movement dubbed Christians Against Christian Nationalism, Yeah, but I mean, like Christianity is like inherently authoritarian. Yeah, so cool, dudes. This is what happens at the end when it comes to these authoritarian type movements. Yeah. They want to counter misinformation and threats to democracy. Well, yeah, Christianity by itself, by default, organized religion is a problem. Likewise, several academic critics are raising concern about the medical falsehoods related to the vaccines gold and other spread, as well as the far-right mantra that the 2020 election was rigged. The religious yeah, and like this whole like idea of like religion and politics and others and this stuff is very, very toxic. Very toxic. The religious nature of these events is a pretext for a rally by people who are united by feeling victimized and outraged. This is incredibly corrosive for democracy because you have a group of political leaders and their followers who not only feel victimized by the culture, but like it's not even true. But they feel like the very political system is is against them. That's how you get populist coup attempts. With regards to the attack on the vaccines, Perry said that the rhetoric that we're seeing from the Christian far-right against medical experts stem from a variety of different sources, include partisan tendency to fall in line behind leadership, information silos, and a bent towards populist conspiracy theories. But it's not populist, though. It's not populist if, like, the majority of people don't even subscribe to this nonsense. From the early... It's faux populist. Like, I don't know why you would try to equate it. Because it's not populism. It's not populist. From the earliest days of the pandemic, the issue of COVID response was politicized. Republicans and those on the right were more inclined to view any claims of the so-called, quote, experts with suspicion that obviously included masks and lockdowns will ultimately bled into COVID vaccines. These partisan conspiracies were promoted by pastors, conservative TV news, and Christian talk radio, where conservative Christians would be more inclined to get their news. Besides the Reawaken Tour events, there have been drives by Gold, Flynn, and other key figures in the election denialist and anti-vaccine ecosystems to promote their conspiracies on multiple platforms, including the America Project that Byrne launched in 2021 with Flynn as a key advisor. The America Project touts multiple missions. Monty Oblivion, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Including election integrity, medical freedom, and religious freedom, and likens its role to that of a symphony conductor with the goal of magnifying the efforts of those who wish to ally with us through connecting, training, funding, and working together to save America. From what? America's Frontline Doctors, the group Gold founded, is listed among its allies. Byrne told the Guardian that in 2021 that his group put up tens of thousands of dollars to relaunch the Reawaken Tour and that he attended some of the events too. In similar expansive language, Gold's rhetoric in Tennessee veered into a prophetic style as she walked up to her vision for changing America. Quote, "We will create a separate society that is founded on righteousness, objective standards of right and wrong, good and evil." Red flag? What is objective standards of right and wrong? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is good and evil? What they actually mean is, by objective standards of right and wrong, it means that their worldview is the only correct view. Their worldview is good, while any deviations from that is bad. That's what they mean. It's not more more. It doesn't go deeper than that. 77 Sage, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. From a historical perspective, the current role played by the Christian nationalism is in tandem with the election denial movement, and the dubious critiques about COVID vaccine have been fueled by the rise of less educated evangelicals in politics, especially in the Republican ranks. True. Said David Hollinger, a history professor emeritus at Berkeley. White evangelicals are among the least educated of Americans. The Republican Party's increasing reliance on them marks an unprecedented stage in American history. For the first time, one of the major political parties displays contempt for learning. Not even the Democratic Party of Andrew Jackson was so dependent for its success on anti-intellectual postures. It's a tenet of fascism. It really highlights the shift of the Republican Party, right? It really highlights the shift of the Republican Party. Are you a leftist? I'm looking for new political streamers to watch. Yeah, sure. I am everything. Yes, it really does highlight the fascistic nature of the Republican Party. And one of the core tenets of fascism is simply anti-intellectualism, this disdain for education, the arts, intellectuals. This sort of underscores that. And it's a growing problem that basically has found its way into the mainstream Republican Party. This is the Republican Party. All right. We should probably talk about this. More than a decade ago, investment experts James Altucher and Douglas Cease wrote a book for the Wall Street Journal calling investing in the apocalypse. I mean, like, first of all, that's a ghoulish way to think, but okay. It also kind of highlights the problem with capitalism. I mean, investing in the apocalypse. Yeah, dude, sure. Like, shit's gone to shit, but like, how can we make money off of it? Okay? They argued that the end of the world is a profitable opportunity for those who know how to, quote, fade the fear as everyone else panics. Cool. Let's take advantage of everyone collectively losing their shit over something legitimate, such as like COVID or climate change. Yeah, dude. Let's do that. This is some ghoulish shit. They maintain that when disaster strikes, investors should approach it with the rationale that no matter how bad things seem, they really aren't that bad. Oh, man. Yeah, this is toxic. Before the COVID pandemic, they advised investing in big pharmaceutical companies as a strategy to reap dividends from global pandemics. That's fucking ghoulish. Well, they also encourage putting money into renewable energy systems while ramping up oil production. Cool. Yeah, the don't look up. Exactly. This is exactly what this reminds me of. Today, it seems that many have followed Altucher, and Cease's advice under the guise of taking action on the pandemic. Billions of dollars have been poured into big pharma instead of public health and policies aimed at preventing another global outbreak because they want to take advantage of it. The supposed energy transition that has been undertaken has seen renewable production expanded, but there have been no indication of oil and gas being substituted or ultimately phased out. Hey, SV Harkin, how's it going? A guy from Moderna came into where I work, and I didn't say anything because I need not to get fired. Yeah. What's worse is governments and corporations have teamed up to turn the apocalypse into a money-making opportunity. They have rushed to put forward false solutions to the climate crisis, from the push to replace fuel engine vehicles with electric ones to the so-called climate-smart agriculture to protected areas for nature conservation and massive tree planting projects for carbon offsets. All this trickery is called greening and is designed to profit off of climate fears, not stop climate change. While guaranteeing high returns, this deception is tantamount to the genocide of hundreds of millions of people who will perish from the effects of climate change within the next century because things are that bad. This is how climate writer Keaton Joshi describes the world's biggest polluters proposing climate solutions. Indeed, what governments and corporations have pushed in terms of climate action in the past few years are policies that only make the situation worse. Take carbon offsets, the epitome of greening. Acting as real-life pass, go, and collect $200 tickets, they allow some of the biggest climate criminals go on polluting by engaging in a charade of tree planting schemes. The logic behind them is that we cannot stop our greenhouse gas emissions immediately because that would, quote, hurt the economy, so we can instead plant trees that will absorb them and grow the economy through carbon markets, a supposed win-win situation. But this fallacy has been repeatedly exposed. For one, the organization that are supposed to certify that indeed enough tree planting has taken place do not have the tools to even verify that the declared emissions will definitely be absorbed. Another problem is that many offsetting activities do not actually offset anything. They just kind of pass the buck around, but, you know. A recent investigation into the world's largest carbon standard found that 94% of its rainforest offset credits did not actually contribute to carbon reduction. Worse, it still exaggerated the threat to the forest included in its projects. While its conservation activities, which yielded some of these credits, involved serious human rights violations, including forced evictions and home demolitions of local people. Even if some of these carbon offset schemes do make a difference in the short term through forest conservation or reforestation, given our current climate reality characterized by the ever-worsening forest fires, they can easily just burn to dust and contribute to the greenhouse gas problem. One recent study, for example, found that since 2015, close to 7 million tons of carbon was released from the wildfires in 6 forest projects that are part of California's carbon trading system. Sheesh. Then there's the fatal confusion between efficiency and ecology. We're being duped to believe that buying more energy efficient or green products can save the planet. Whether it is a new electric car, eco-friendly condo, a paper straw instead of a plastic straw, or a solar-powered turtle-shaped mega yacht, all are branded as ecological solutions because they are supposedly more energy or material efficient than the standard alternative. What often hides behind these green labels is the large carbon footprint their production generates. Furthermore, green technology solutions just often shift the environmental damage they do to one sector or a distant location. Yes, there is some truth to that. The question I would ask then is... like, well, yeah, but the current way of manufacturing things, like, I don't know, using plastic straws, has massive negative externalities. How much negative externalities are you going to get from manufacturing, say, a plastic straw that gets, doesn't break down immediately? The whole, like, microplastics. It also damages sea life. It pollutes the waters. And it's made from fossil fuels because it's plastic. How much of that versus, like, okay, yeah, obviously there's going to be some L's to take versus making paper ones, but, like, where's the balance on that? The thing is, like, yeah, there's, like, problems with manufacturing electric cars, but It's either that or permanently running on a car that always constantly needs fossil fuels. Not just gasoline, but it needs oils. It needs oil for the engine, it needs oil for brakes. I mean, you know, you also have to take into consideration that, like, while yeah, it's gonna have some initial problems, you can try to mitigate these things. For example, electric vehicles have their environmental costs, but what if we what if we pad that environmental cost by making efficient public transportation, which reduces the need for a car anyways, altogether. For example, the growing electric vehicle industry may help reduce carbon emissions, but will also cause a massive jump in demand for lithium and other minerals. And besides, like, there are ways of making, closed-loop systems that will reduce these harms. Scientists are already warning about grave environmental impacts. The rush for mining lithium may have, including the water pollution and loss, toxic waste spills, biodiversity loss, and soil contamination. Yes, valid. The problem is, like, what is the alternative? The problem is, like, what do we just continue down this path? I don't think that's a feasible option. Jai Bureaucrat, long time. I hope you're still doing well. I'm hanging in there. Thank you for stopping by. Welcome. Definitely been a minute or two. I'm glad you stopped by. I'm glad you're here. Apart from making climate change worse, these, quote, solutions disproportionately harm marginalized groups and indigenous peoples, as the UN Special Rapporteur, Tendaya Akum, has recently warned. Not only are these impacts of ecological collapse felt more severely by those who encounter racism on a daily basis, but the extraction of minerals needed for, quote, smart technology and renewable energy exposes these same people to pollution, violence, and displacement. Yeah, that's true. The argument that green solutions provide jobs also rests on weak foundation, especially if the quality of work is considered. As the ILO pointed out, a large share of employments for so-called nature-based solutions is informal, low-wage, temporary, and exposed to risks such as unsafe working conditions, child labor, and lack of social security. The solutions don't have regulations to prevent pollution, violence, and displacement. Yeah, that's a problem. Nature conservation has also fallen prey to the greening deception. For years, large conservation organizations and their corporate sponsors have been pushing this idea that large swaths of land and forests need to be fenced off so we can protect biodiversity and help mitigate the effects of climate change. I mean, to a degree, that's important. Yes, we need to stop developments. Like the carbon offset scheme, this policy is just another way to enable big polluters to continue to pollute by saying we are doing something for the planet. It also enables some particularly in the tourism and construction sector to benefit from the so-called nature tourism, in which the wealthy pay big money to have access to fenced-off parks and experience pristine nature while staring at luxury real estate projects. True, that's a good point. Yeah. And just like other greening strategies, this type of nature conservation results in major human injustice. Indigenous peoples from all around the world have suffered evictions, dispossession, and even killings as they've been forced from their land to make way for more nature conservation projects. In the Republic of Congo, the solution don't have regulations to prevent pollution, violence, and displacement. Yes, that's true. The Republic of Congo, the indigenous Baka people have been brutally oppressed by guards of a conservation project supported by the UNDP, WWF, EU, and US and logging and palm oil companies. Palm oil is so fucking bad. Jesus. UNDP investigation found that members of the committee were routinely beaten and some imprisoned, tortured, or raped. Jesus Christ. In the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo, the guards of the national park funded by the US and German governments have also engaged in violent attacks on the indigenous Batwa people living in its territory. A 2022 report by Minority Rights produced evidence that at least 20 members of the community have been killed and at least 15 women raped during forced eviction campaigns. These are countless horror stories like these, according to estimates of some 14 million people that have been evicted in this manner in Africa alone. That is why the news that a new conservation scheme approved by the UN Conference on Biodiversity held in Montreal was met with much dismay by indigenous people across the world. The new global biodiversity framework, which also calls the 30 by 30, aims to turn 30% of the planet into protected areas by 2030. In a letter to the COP15 participants, indigenous people stated that the policy may be the biggest land grab in U.S. in history and further threaten the physical and cultural survival of the indigenous people worldwide. Given that indigenous people reside on the territories that hold 80% of the world's biodiversity, it is certain that the indigenous held land will fall within the 30 by 30 plan. Evicting them from the land they have lived since time immemorial is hardly an ecological solution. A much better solution would be addressing the biggest cause of biodiversity loss: industrial-scale farming, capitalism. It destroys the soil, increases desertification, and releases huge amounts of greenhouse gases and is linked to deforestation. 30 by 30 would not curb damage to the damage industrial-scale farming does. If the economic model that enables it does not change, capitalism, it may even worsen its impact. Restricting land use may raise food prices, artificially inflate the value of land, and encourage further overuse of chemicals and harmful crop and livestock breeding practices to increase production. This would have devastating consequences for smallholder farmers who produce more than 30% of the world's food and tend to use more sustainable practices than industrial farming. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do conservation just a free-for-all for under capitalism. Nothing is real. Well, these solutions certainly, if that's what it's going to do, this is no way of solving the climate crisis. Perhaps the biggest problem with the apocalypse investing and its, quote, greening deception is that they dominate the global conversation on climate change and biodiversity at official forums and are presented to the public as making progress on environmental issues while doing nothing. We also have people like Bill Gates, billionaire Bill Gates, who say that are very optimistic about the future. Yeah, because they bet on it. Since 2020, the top 1% have collected nearly 2/3 of all new wealth as the world has faced a deadly pandemic and mass climate change related disaster. The optimism of the wealthy and the fake climate solutions pushed on us are quite effective in convincing people that climate change will be tackled. That is because they provide reassurance that we will not have to give up our comforts that we enjoy, because they also give us, the consumers, capitalism, a choice to go green or not. You know? Indeed, we can now choose between a renewable or an oil-powered turtle-shaped mega yacht. True. Alio with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Making green choices then leaves us satisfied when we're doing something about climate change, but driving an electric car, putting your organic produce in a tote bag, and turning down your heating or air conditioning by 1 degree is not going to save the planet. I mean, yeah, obviously, I think the point here is, like, your single individual action by yourself, in comparison to, like, you know, these corporations and whatnot, in comparison to the greed, and the massive amount of pollution, and the system that continues to encourage this, which is capitalism, cannot even remotely be addressed by one person. That doesn't mean, so here's where I'll, like, kind of push back on this. Just keep in mind this is also a opinion piece. But this doesn't mean that we shouldn't do these things, right? This doesn't mean that we shouldn't, in every possible way, figure out how to, you know, get off of fossil fuels. Like, you know, plastic bags are so freaking bad. You know, if you have the option of making these choices, then yeah, we should. What would make a difference is developing mass transport, sure, and substantially reducing car ownership, yeah. Closing coal mines, yes. Ending oil and gas exploration, true. Promoting decentralized and community-managed renewable energy systems, true. Doing away with industrial-scale monoculture farming, true, and support smallholder and indigenous-led agroecological systems that have been shown to enhance nutrition, biodiversity, and quality of life, true. Yes. Of course, the system we have now in place favors apocalypse investors, capitalism, who would do everything in their power to resist climate action. That is why a Swedish climate activist, Greta Thunberg, has eloquently pointed out we can't save the world by playing by the rules that because the rules have to be changed. Yeah, true. We need to confront the manipulation of false solutions, discredit them, and move on to changing rules premised on profiting from apocalypse. Reparative justice is one approach to changing the current system. Embracing reparative justice means giving power back to the people to invest in the needs of their communities by supporting autonomous organization and mutual aid efforts for affordable housing, food, energy, and transport systems. This is big anarchist energy flowing here. Reparative justice for reducing carbon emissions means demanding that those companies and governments historically responsible for climate change pay the damage they have caused. Yes. Present and future victims of climate change to collectively decide how those reparations are to be spent. Reparative justice also means supporting agroecological practices and restoring diverse food growing cultures that have been erased or lost due to industrial monoculture farming. Reparative justice also means that biodiversity loss would have to be tackled by guaranteeing the status of indigenous people as the stewards of their land and empowering them to protect it based on their knowledge, spiritual wisdom, and traditions. Achieving all of this will not be easy, and we will have to face the power of governments and corporations, the apocalypse investors, but through human solidarity and collective action, we can fight back and invest in our survival. Yeah, I mean, like, the sentiment and the solutions proposed here are spot on. Yeah, 100%. All right, folks. It is that time. Folks, I gotta get going. I really appreciate you all hanging out. Thank you for all the support. Thank you to the new follows. We got a string of new follows. Thank you guys. Welcome. Zombified, Monty Oblivion, 77 Sage. Thank you all for the follow. I appreciate that. Thank you, Alio, for the biddies. That ends the troll. Yeah, free stream. True. Thank you. I appreciate that, Michael Hassler. Thank you, Michael Hassler Heat, for the mods. Thank you, folks. If you guys want to support the channel, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. And if you want to go further, above and beyond, head on over to the YouTube channel, as some of you have already done, and hit that subscribe button. We are at 213 subscribers. I saw a couple of you hit that subscribe button earlier. It really helps us out. Spread the word. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Maybe one day I'll be able to pronounce A1 C3 something about bees. All right. I appreciate it. Welcome. As always, folks, please stay safe. Spread the word far and wide that this is the place to be for news and politics. We're here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Alright, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you.